Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back in with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, show in which we react to latest Arsenal news, transfers, and of course matches. And you join me after Arsenal have drawn 2-2 at Norwich City after replacing Unai Emery with the interim head coach Freddie Ljungberg. Initial reactions to this is I'm not too surprised. I'm disappointed, of course, that we couldn't take the 3 points, but I'm not wholly surprised in what we saw today, if that's anything to go by, to be honest. We're going to get back into some of your comments very, very soon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon after what was a interesting game, and certainly one to break down some of the interesting parts of it. I mean, let's start with the biggest thing, which I think is that our defence. Categorically, you cannot expect a massive improvement after just 2 days in terms of the defensive side of things. The attacking, ironically, I think we did see some difference. I thought we saw us play with a lot more freedom in the game. I thought that Aubameyang and Lacazette with Ozil behind in sort of that diamond midfield. Well, it wasn't even a diamond really because Ozil was so far forward it sort of became a 4-3-3 most of the time. But I think that you saw a lot more freedom, a lot more confidence, and obviously we dominated the first half a lot more. The goals which we conceded very much came from us being hit on the counter in a sucker punch, and that led to massive defensive errors. And I tweeted out before the game that I was surprised that he'd picked Mustafi and Xhaka, and I defended the decision around the fact that I thought that Mustafi has played arguably the best out of our centre-backs so far this season, but today Mustafi was not great whatsoever. Granit Xhaka, first half, in terms of his actual play, if you take away the goals that we conceded and take away that for a second in isolation, his passing was good. We passed a lot more into the wide areas than we have done in previous games. You can see what we have missed not having him in the side. However, the defensive mistakes from Granit Xhaka were there again. They caught out of position, especially for the second goal for Cantwell right before half time. First half, even though we lost the first half 2-1, I thought we were better than we were in the second half. Second half, Norwich came out the better side for the last half an hour or so. We scored and obviously got that back to 2-2. But as a whole, I felt that the first half was better, even though we lost it. Let's have a look at what some of you guys are saying in our chat box. Kitchener says that Leno saved us from an absolute embarrassment. Avon said Leno was more or less on his own. Evening Omar. Archie says Arsenal sat back second half. Alba wide is wasted. Omar says Leno was outstanding. He bailed us out again. M. Max says the midfield was terrible. Taj Brown says Martinelli better start getting more minutes. He's our most informed player. Zlatko says I think Guendouzi is not up to the task. He needs to be benched for now. Sergio says this squad is simply not good enough to get the better results. M. Max says Willock was awful and should have come off much sooner. Arsenal's Acid says Willock WTF lost the ball every time it gave it away from the first goal. Question came in. I've just missed that. It's gone up the screen now. We'll have time for questions a little bit later on, I promise you. In terms of more comments, Anonymous says why Pepe didn't play. We need a goal and he brings Saka. Not surprised. I mean, I am a bit surprised that Pepe didn't play. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not as surprised considering his confidence is absolutely shot. He's not getting anywhere near. But the thing is, you're never going to improve your confidence unless you play. And that's what I don't get, is that we're not giving Pepe those opportunities to play. He didn't start in the game against Frankfurt. And that made me think that he would get his opportunity in the game this weekend. I know that was under a different coach, but at the same time, I thought that he's not really had enough minutes to sort of go out there and say that this is what I can do. Let me go out and show you. And he hasn't had that chance yet. He really hasn't had that chance yet. In terms of the substitutions, I am surprised about what happened in terms of why he made those decisions. First of all, we saw Torreira come on, which was an odd one. When we need a goal, I thought we would be more proactive. I know Willock didn't have the best game, but I thought if you're going to take Willock off, why not bring a winger on and go for a 4-3-3, a more solid 4-3-3 with Guendouzi and Xhaka in behind, with Ozil in front, and either one of Pepe, Martinelli or Saka with Lacazette and Aubameyang. And he didn't do that, which I found really strange, especially because he likes that system. And we've seen that system being used under him as well for the youth side. So I'm really surprised that he did that. In terms of where this leaves Arsenal then, so obviously we would have been quite nicely 5 points off top four had we have won this game. And when you consider what we've been doing this season, there's quite a bit of a strange one to think that we would have been 5 points off of top four, but now we're 7 points off, which doesn't seem horrific. It's still certainly in the realms of possibility to get it back. But I just think that moving forwards, something has to give, whether or not it's the choice that we make a coaching change before or after the end of the season. I certainly think it needs to be before. I certainly think that someone else needs to come in. But in terms of making a change this early on, it depends on who we get. I just want to throw up on the screen in a second some of the statistics from the game, which we get out. But let's see what you guys in the chat box. Please let me know what your overall thoughts are on how quickly we need to get a change of coaching. Do you think we should be patient and allow things to happen on the pitch in terms of, I don't know, just being a bit patient and waiting for the right person to be acquired? Or do you actually believe that, no, this week we need to see a change? We need to see someone brought in now, and whether or not that will change things remains to be seen. But I want to know in the chat box, do you think we should change things this week? Or should we be more patient and maybe look for the right guy a little bit later on? And I want to try and get up some of these stats so we can have a look at how much we dominated the ball on Sky Sports. Thanks to Sky Sports. Here we go, stats. So we're going to share this with you now. On the screen should be popping up. Hold on. Here we go. Sky Sports match report. Here we are. So in terms of the stats, you can see there. Total shots, Norwich 16, Arsenal 16, Norwich 15. So we did actually dominate the ball in that area of the pitch, which is a positive thing to say. In terms of, though, if we look at the stats there, in terms of looking at how much possession we had, dominated the game, which was quite nice. In the first half, I thought, this Arsenal is back now. This Arsenal is what we want to see moving forwards. And whether or not that improves in the later games under Freddie, or be it under another manager, I just think that in terms of how much we changed going forward, that was definitely evident on the pitch. On target, Norwich, a lot more clinical. We missed a lot of early chances in the game. Lacazette really didn't help himself with that early chance that we missed. Off target, again, it was more about, I mean, we'll talk about the penalty thing in a second, because that's ridiculous. But we just don't seem to get out anywhere near as well as our opposition do. If you look at the blocked and the off-target side of things, that's the biggest tell in this. Look how many shots were blocked by the Norwich players in total compared to the Arsenal players. 8 against 2 is a ridiculous amount of blocks. We just don't seem to want to get in that position to block shots. We don't stop them quick enough. So I think that when we look about things moving forwards, it really needs to be about those defenders closing down those attacking players, stopping those chances and stopping crosses too. We let them create so many more chances than we really should do. Let's get some of your comments in terms of that question that I asked you a second ago, what you think should happen. Omar says that we need a change of coach now. You could see today that Freddie isn't ready. Again, I don't really want to make too much of a judgment on Freddie Ljungberg right now. In terms of making that judgment right now, you can't really make one after 2 days. He's not had enough time to imprint what he wants to do. So in that sense, I have got some patience there. But I do think that in terms of the defence, I can't see Freddie Ljungberg being the guy to change things this early on. When you look at what Freddie Ljungberg gives us, we know as a player, he was a fantastic forward player. Going forward, fantastic dribbling skill and the goal scoring for our wide player too. He's always going to have that drilled into his ethos. But actually, when you look at the defensive side, is he going to be able to put that into this side? Probably not. Probably doesn't have the coaching experience and even the playing experience, whether you think that has an impact or not when it turns into coaching a career, I don't know. But I just think that he's not going to be that person to really transform our defensive problems into positives. And I can't see that happening under the current coach. CMN says, we terribly lack pace in every sector except in attack. Having people spun, sit on their asses, or being simply overrun 30 times a game, it's not acceptable. Get rid of half of this squad, manager later. And that is a big thing that came up during the game, is like, we clearly have so many issues across the board that just by changing the coach, we aren't going to see a big thing happen in terms of the overall feeling of the game. We're not going to see results drastically change as soon as a new manager comes in straight away, because there's so many ingrained issues in these players that moving forwards, you just aren't going to see something radically change. It might take 6 months. It might take another season. It might take another 2 transfer windows before our fortunes really turn around. But I can't see this being something that changes overnight, because it isn't going to do that. In terms of Kwesi, he says, Freddie Ljungberg, OMG, I want him to succeed so bad, but it looks unlikely. I hope I'm wrong, though. Rodney says, I will say he should have brought in Torreira at half-time, but that centre-back partnership is just painful. Khalid says, where is Pepe? The attack looked a lot more fluid, but the defence was terrible. It's going to be interesting to see what Ljungberg's post-game press conference is like, what he sort of talks about in terms of there should be questions going towards the defence. But actually, let's take a look at talking about some of the things that happen in the game, because it's so, when we think about Arsenal right now, all it is the coach, the manager, but we don't actually ever really talk about the game that much anymore. So let's take a look at some of these sort of instances that happen. The first goal, again, it just comes about where so many players are out of position. David Luiz is so deep compared to his centre-back partner. There's no communication, and Pukki's played through, and he's able to get a shot which is deflected, which is not closed down enough and well enough, and that deflection goes past Leno. Second goal, or rather the equaliser, from that penalty, I don't understand. Like, I get the encroachment thing, but the encroachment is going to happen at every single penalty. Trust me, I am so thankful for this law that it's in place because we got there. But it's such a strange one, because whenever you watch a penalty that's taken, especially before VAR came in, every single penalty on earth was encroached. Every single one of them. And yet it never got turned around. And you always had someone, especially in the Champions League, you always had that official off the pitch that would be looking at things from the spot of the goalkeeper. And surely they just weren't doing their job properly. Because if that's the rule and that's the law, how many teams got away with that in the past? And now, thankfully, if that is the rule, and very thankfully for us, we got to retake our penalty, which is obviously very fortunate. The cruel stuff, I mean, I love the fact that Alba scored and shushed him. That was great. I mean, you can't blame the guy, can you? But then obviously we concede right at the end of the first half, which is just so painful considering what we've done to get ourselves in that position. So that was really, really frustrating. And that as a side as mentally fragile as us, that was going to have a huge impact on us going into the second half. I was really concerned that we would concede again right in the early part of the second half. We didn't. We managed to get on terms, thanks for a fantastic finish from Aubameyang for the left-hand side of the goal. That was amazing. And it annoyed me so much seeing the Norwich fans holding onto the ball to time waste and then throwing the ball onto the pitch to try and cheat and get the game paused to try and stop a chance that obviously led to our goal. So props to the referee for not stopping the game. But my God, someone have a word with someone in that crowd, because that's ridiculous and you need to take a look at yourself, son. And now we sort of move on to a game against Brighton. I believe it is a midweek on Thursday. We need to win that game. It's at home. It's desperate chance for us to pick up some points. We really, really need to sort out who's going to be on our best forward, who's going to be in our defence. Hopefully Bellerin is back. So I thought Chambers really, really sort of struggled in certain areas of the pitch. He was on a yellow card for a lot of the game. I don't think that helped. That he was quite out of position quite a lot. He hasn't got the pace to get back like Bellerin does. And I think that really, really hurt us on that side, especially when it was Mustafi that was tasked with being on that side with him. And obviously we can't really talk about anything else in terms of the players without mentioning Bernd Leno. Bernd Leno saved our asses today. Absolutely fantastic performance from the German. What a save that pushed it onto the post. I believe it was from McLean? I think it was McLean's shot that he pushed onto the post. Absolutely fantastic goalkeeping. He gets a lot of stick for no reason a lot of the time, Bernd Leno, just because people don't really see him as a world-class goalkeeper. But he has the potential to put in some really top-class performances, and he did today, and he was fantastic. Temi says, Arsenal fans are never pleased. We aren't the same Arsenal again. Give the team a lift and encouragement. They fought well and long. I think that definitely fans will get more behind things if the coaching situation is sorted out. Joseph says, Tom, we need to focus our energy on Kroenke out. It's clear they're not the right owners this season. They should get no more chances. Again, It's a really odd one with the Kroenke situation. I want to do a separate video on that probably in midweek because I've got my own concerns about not just the Kroenkes, but actually the direction the fan base is taking in terms of the weekend DU. I've got some real big issues with that about how it's going, especially how they've reacted to a lot of things that happened this weekend. And I'm not going to be one to sit on the fence when it comes to my thoughts on that, and that'll be out. I'm going to wrap things up here. I know it's been a short one, but my throat is going, and I'm on Sonny's podcast this evening, so I want to try and save myself for that. If you've enjoyed the show and you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, please make sure you drop the show a like. I will make sure that I try and reply to almost every single one of your comments if you're watching on playback, so please leave a comment about what you think is going on. Please drop the video a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be back once again, most likely tomorrow for a video. Actually, not most likely tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow, because as you guys know, day after the game, every single weekend game, day after that is the podcast. Tomorrow, the podcast will be back. So far, I can confirm to you that Webby will be returning, and, of course, for his second appearance, French Gooner, Jazzy, is going to be back as well. So make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, for the Gooner Talk podcast, and you can have your say and your questions answered by the guys and listen to some really important Arsenal chat. I'll see you again very, very, very soon. Especially tonight. Go check out Sonny's channel tonight because I'll be on there at 9 o'clock, I believe it is. So make sure you tune in for that. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and your weekend. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.